Well, shalom to everybody and peace to everybody. I hope that everybody is feeling well. And if you're not, then I hope that Source will send light and love to you and help you. It certainly does work. I think that probably we could afford, every one of us, daily to take a time, and like I shared with you guys the other day about, sending Source love, Care Bear stare, whatever you want to call it. It really is so wonderful because it's actually focusing intention. And what's important in our mind is what we have our minds focused on. And that can, unfortunately, can come off appearing as you're focused on fear, something that you're fearing, something you're worried about, something you're concerned, and you focus your attention on that, and guess what typically happens? It usually gets worse. And it gets worse mostly because it becomes more prominent in your mind to the point that it then begins to take over your mind. And unfortunately, all humans seem to be bound by that struggle and battle, and it's up to us individually to choose to try to walk that out and work it out. And yes, of course, it's a lot of work sometimes, and but I would like to say tonight, I've just got several things that are kind of on my mind about some things that are going on, and maybe some things that you're sensing right now. Seems to be a really, 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 really spiritually heavy time. Last month was heavy, and some of you may have recognized that was going on. But I've been watching. I'm not, honestly, for the first time in my life, I'm not really concerned, although I see a lot of things that I'm not really comfortable with. But it's not concerned in that at this point, that I'm scared, or that I have fear, or that I'm being overcome by anxiety. It's really just more something that I'm recognizing that is going on. I'm watching it go on. I'm watching people change. And there is much prophecy that is actually functioning in the time that we're in. For those of you, I would just like to encourage you, for those of you who are still wondering and questioning whether these things are real or not, while I understand that, I would encourage you to, whatever you have to do to appease your mind, that you inevitably will hopefully desire to come to that and set your intentions on finding that answer inside of yourself. Because unfortunately, we can set intentions and they may guide our reality, but the choices that are being made on the macro, not just on the micro. And so a lot of times we think that and it is true that you do shape your reality, you do create your reality, you do cause things to come to you. We are magnetically attracted and repelled people, and we draw to us those things that are at the same frequency that we are. So if you're down and you're depressed and you're in the blues, usually what seems to manifest for you is things that are in that magnetic state. And that's, God, I wish that I learned all of this stuff years ago. It would have, I look back at some of the different things I've gone through in my life, and I go, well, there I was doing it, and there I was doing it, and there I was doing it. And so likewise, when we can find it inside of ourselves to transmutate, to, in other words, to turn ourselves into something other than what our flesh desires for us to be, we can then overcome things that otherwise would have destroyed us or debilitated us or mentally caused much dissonance. And of course, for those of you that might have some understanding of Archon, the Archons are working very hard, and society all around us proves that. You just need to simply look. But what I've been most amazed by is how few people in the so-called spirit realm, mediums and that kind of stuff, have any knowledge about the working of the cosmos. They have a gift, and that gift is very real, okay? But it just amazed me how far that monad has brought us from where we started out in the thoughts and beliefs and the pictures and the systems, and that they're just not the truth. And so we then have the opportunity and the ability to bring to ourselves. We can make ourselves sick, or we can make ourselves well. We can make ourselves happy, or we can make ourselves sad. And we have plenty of opportunities to do any of those that we simply choose to do. Today, I'm going to make a choice, and we often say that without saying necessarily the words. So I would like for everyone to understand that this is 2026, just as 2025 was its own, and it functioned under different planets and it functioned under different powers. And we have a major shift that's coming towards the end of this month. And so I have shared this with a few people. Some have received it and some have struggled a lot with it, maybe. But the reality of it is that we are in kind of a position, a point. And unfortunately, it seems as if the mass majority of people are not aware, and maybe they're okay with being not aware. But the sad part about that is even if you're okay with not being aware, awareness is going to affect you whether you believe it or don't. And so, we do have the reality that we create, but not everything that is in our life did we necessarily create. There are situations that happen in our timeline, and the creation comes out of how we handle those situations. So I really desire, and I hope people will tonight, will get a hold of this. I've struggled with it. Maybe others have struggled with it as well. Right now I've got a tooth I'm waiting to go to the doctor to see, and I started on antibiotics, and I asked myself today when it was just killing me, I said, did I really create this tooth to go bad? And I use that because it's very indicative. I think oftentimes we hear words, and because we lack understanding, our perception is still skewed, and we can't make sense of things. If we can dare to understand that we really are divine, living in a human body, and we are full consciousness that is experiencing reality, and we do our experiencing of reality through the human concept that we inhabit, okay? So consciousness as a whole, all consciousness right now is experiencing my experiences through my body. And I shared that with you guys, that as we will begin, I told somebody earlier, I said, I don't think that I could be the same person that I was most of my life growing up. I think if there was another civil war, and it was like the Civil War we had, after my past life regressions, after seeing the changes that Source has made, I don't know that I could have stood with what the southern side stood for. I don't know that I could do that. But I've found many pieces of my life where I have questions that have some answered and some unanswered as to what this that I'm going through, or this that I'm seeing, or this that I'm experiencing, what is it really telling me? Is it telling me that that is not the path? And sometimes, friend, we need to listen to those intuitions, understanding that intuition, and properly defined for us, intuition is your higher self speaking to you. And many, many people have intuitive statements, and they find 100 different ways to explain it instead of simply accepting the truth. And then the other side, because there is, if you want to use this terminology, there is fake intuition, which is the archons programming your brain, dropping seedlets inside of your thought patterns because they know exactly how you think. And so they drop seedlets, and then people take it. I've heard people go, oh, well, I really think God's telling me to go do this. and you see them a month later and they're broke and destitute and their life sucks and they're unhappy, more unhappy than they were. And all of a sudden, I used to ask questions in counseling sessions like, so would you now still say that God told you that? And you would be amazed almost across the board. Almost every one of them missed the point. And so what am I talking about? I'm not really rambling. I'm just trying to build enough pattern around this thing so that concepts that might be difficult can be grasped. These are so deep. I talk to people and I lose them in 5 words, and it's like, but you'll never understand that if you don't understand the other 200 words. And so I've always struggled with this, and I'm not convinced that. I heard some things coming out of prophecies the other day that I do declare I believe they bear witness with things that source has said specifically to me about my path and my journey. I don't think that the work has even begun yet, but I do think we're very near the work beginning. And so all of this is a setup and a precursor for the things that are growing. It is believed that this time in which we live in, especially this month for now, next month it'll be next month's own issues, but right now what is going on is we are coming to a time of, if you would, a time of graduation, a time of splitting of timelines. Now I've talked about them and I could show you, and you could go research Edgar Casey's prophecies of that, and Dolores Cannon's prophecies of that, and Nostradamus' prophecies of that. Every one of those and at least 3 or 4 others across 2,000 years of history spoke the same words about the dividing of the timelines of humanity. And for many of you, I want you to hear this, okay? It's not about necessarily all the things you do, right or wrong. It's the things, how you do the things that you do, okay? Are we going to make that the universe isn't as hung up as we've been programmed to be about every individual situation? The universe resonates with the heart, and the heart is an intention. So you may make a mistake, and that's why the Bible says that God knows the thoughts and the intents of your mind. That's not what that scripture says, dear one, and if you don't know the scriptures, you certainly will never be able to figure it out. God knows the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. We now know scientifically that there is actually a memory base inside of the physical heart. When they do heart transplants, people remember things in another body, and yet they have memories of things that went on in the body in the life before. Why? Because the divine spark of God, friend, is not in your mind, it's in your heart. And it's funny, years ago, when the question of abortion and stuff came up, that science proved that there is a spark that happens inside of a child. Just so you know, dear one, that is the divine spark being put inside of that child. That means from the spirit realm, that spark was instilled in that human body. And so many profound pieces I've been watching my whole life, and they just seem to be drawing together in a coherent pattern that makes sense. There's not fracturing, there's not splaying, there's not displacement. There is the replacement of dissonance with coherence, and because the dissonance is leaving, even when things don't go right, according to a human, things are still right. Is that making any sense to anybody? We oftentimes miss the point that this is a training ground, that there is a learning that all of us, as a pure conscious spirit, made a plan for ourselves, and then that plan gets wiped out from our memory, and we go experience the plan, inevitably to end up at the point that we had preset that we wanted to arrive at. Whatever the learning lesson was, whatever the peace you felt that you need, and so those things are really weird and amazing in the time that we're living in, because many people are experiencing something happen in the cosmos. But I have to tell you, there's a lot of teachings out there that are dragging people into, yet again, a new archonic system that is called nothing matters and no one cares, basically. That's what new spiritualism is, new age teaching. That no matter, there's nothing you can do, and it's funny because the true Yeshua's teaching is that there is something that every human must do. Every human must awaken to the reality that they are divine. So if you want to know, the sole purpose of humanity is for you to awaken to the reality that you are divine. It's not about the rest. Is there much that comes with that? More than we've been able to see yet. But it is increasing, and it is happening all over the world in all kinds of people. And so we have this concept of salvation that comes from the external, that was concocted by the archons through the Catholic Church to give us a picture that if we reach out to something else, and yet the only place that you will find salvation is in yourself. And that's a really mind-boggling thing, even more so if you were brought up in more what you would call a devout Christian, and you actually believed what you were taught, as I and many people that I've known and been with in churches through my whole life believed those stories, and it wasn't fake. They believed it. And that's real good. But when we come to the recognition that something isn't true, then we also have to be willing to, if you would, stop believing it, or we are hung in that archonic loop. And that's where a lot of people are. A lot of people hear my words, and I have them all the time tell me, oh man, you really blow me away with your depth and your light, and I feel better when I talk to you, and all of that stuff, and yet retain the things that are holding them in bondage. And I admit, I know that it is true. Each one of us must choose to make those decisions for ourselves, and I accept that for myself even. And unfortunately, dear friends, this month that we're in right now is a month that, after the hard month of January, after the hard year of 2025, this is where the change started. And it started, whether you like it or don't, it started the minute that Donald Trump took over reins of the United States of America. And there's many prophecies that speak to the purpose that we're living in right now. America is not just another country. America has a very specific place in history that is intended by the monad. So I'm going to say just a little bit, because I'm jumping a little bit tonight, and I want to. I'm trying to sow seed in many areas. I'm not just trying to plant carrots, okay? When it's just carrot planting time, that's fine. I'm cool to do that. But some days you got to get the radishes and the beans and the corn all in today. And so you have to spread different seed. And so many of you, and I've talked to people that are struggling with the reality because all they've ever known is praying to an external God. And if you do believe it, then you're a step ahead of many. But on the other side, if you don't believe it, then inevitably it's going to hinder you. I don't say that you're bad or you're wicked or you're a sinner or you're going to hell. I simply say that if you can't discern the realities and how they are shifting on us, then it's going to be really difficult for you to experience all that would be available to you. This month has the connotations of judgment. And you say, well, that's the kind of stuff they told us in the Bible. It's appointed unto every man once to die and then the judgment. Well, unfortunately, that whole concept is a lie, because it's appointed unto every man to die and come back and die and come back and die and come back and die and come back until they actually come to the revelation understanding that they are divine, in which they can get themselves out of that prison. We will, as time goes on, there's certainly, the truth is out there about why the monad and the source, which are not what you would call God, they might be that concept in a general stance, but the monad existed before anything existed, and the monad is the door that opens to the divine eternal light. You must go through. When you go from this life, you are going to the monad, and you must go through the portal of the monad to achieve the highest status, which would be entering into the collective once again, completely and totally. No vestiges of you. The questions that I've talked about, which I had a big conversation the other day, and I will bring that about the 7 layers, what they are, what are the requirements at each one of them to keep from going back into reincarnation. And I'm really sad that there's so many people, with all the opportunity we've had in this world, that have zero understanding of that. I've talked to lots of spiritual people. They have no clue about what is happening. They know that something has happened, and whatever their guru was, well, first off, I don't have a desire to be anybody's guru. I am another human light spirit being worker that is desirous to experience truth again. And if that's you, then we are kindred spirits. And if it's not you, we're probably going to magnetically repel each other inevitably. That is happening all over the earth. People are finding people that they've known their whole life, and all of a sudden they're not compatible anymore. And there are people that you've never met that it's been as if you've known them for thousands of years. And so these things, if you are experiencing some of these things on your own, and all of a sudden somebody who you've known for a long time, all of a sudden it's just like y'all can't vibe. If you use that term, you don't vibe on the same level anymore. And the reason that is happening is because you don't vibe on the same level anymore. So you have to be very careful. What does that mean? How does that play out? How far is that going to affect me? And the answer is in some cases not much, and in other cases it's more than you can imagine. So we have to then look. So I started the thing out with talking about, what is it about? Well, what's it about, friend, is not whether we're going through a test. We are going through tests constantly. The question is when my tooth blows up, what am I going to choose to do? The question is when something happens to you, or you get, something is uncomfortable, if you did not cause that and it was brought to you as a lesson, then we need to learn to then focus on the lesson and quit focusing on all of the things in our life. Your job is not the problem. Okay. This person over here is not the problem. It is true, and I do believe it is the truth, that we are magnetic beings, and we draw to us whatever our magnetic frequency are the things that you're going to manifest. So that is the part where we create. You are creating because of the vibrational state that you are living in. You are magnetically drawing that. We have the great prophet Job, some of the oldest known Hebraic books that there are, and Job tells us from thousands of years ago that the things that you fear come upon you. Okay? What he's talking about is manifestation. That you are manifesting what you are sending out magnetic symbols for. So if you're sending out low vibe frequency magnetic symbols, you're drawing low vibration things to you. And so when somebody says, maybe you've heard this and you don't understand it, when somebody says that you know, when you begin to see things happen repetitively, that you need to really pay attention to that. And I think that that's a really huge piece of truth that every one of us. I'm watching things crumble on every level, folks. I'm sorrowful. I hope you guys are seeing it too. But I'm watching people's lives start to crumble. I'm watching people who seem to be falling apart, and they think that they know what's going on, and yet have no conscious idea about what's happening to them. And that's not a condemnation. That's a worry and a concern, because if we find a few are going through these things, all of us are going through. Remember, every one of us are inside the same exact spirit. You can't say person, because it's not a person. You are the same consciousness as the person next to you, the person down the street. Doesn't matter whether their skin is black or white. Doesn't matter whether they have manners or don't have manners. Doesn't matter whether they're covered with tattoos or they have no tattoos. None of the things that we think are important as humans have any value. They're useless. Now, if they have a purpose, we can use them to discern, and it may give us an insight when we feel a discernment or an intuition, stay away from that person or whatever. Then there may be external reasons that we can read as to why that might be. There's people that I've walked by, and my spirit just senses, and it's just like I get a really, really heavy, uneasy feeling. Well, that's no different than what mediums are doing, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, all of us, every single day, is walking guided by our higher self, which is consciousness, which is the same consciousness as every other human being that you know, if I can say that and get you to grab a hold of it. It's really a massive, profound thought, friends, that we are all, truly are, like the branches of a tree. I start to believe now that the whole concept in John about the branches and the vine, because if you stop and think about a grapevine, you can have one plant here, and that plant may grow and run down, you know, feet and yards of a fence, but it's the same vine. That's kind of a maybe a poor metaphoric picture of how we all are. Outside of the human body, we're all exactly the same consciousness. Fully, totally, full consciousness. We don't fight with each other. We can relate back and forth. I'm on your level, you're on my level. You're not above my level, I'm not below your level. We're on the same page together the second. And I said the other day about, you know, that there are yogis that I've known of, and I've now heard some stories of people in our modern time who have come to a place for whatever reason in their heart that they have chosen to opt out of life. They're finished with their journey. And of course, because if you're a spiritualist, you've been led that, you know, you have so many spirit contracts with the archons, you don't have any right to do anything. And yet, if you begin to learn that you're a consciousness, you have a lot of reasons to do a lot of things. And if that's what you need to do, then I guess that's what you need to do. I don't always say that it's good or that it's right, because in many cases it won't be. You'll make the wrong decision, and you'll make the wrong and that wrong decision will affect your life. And so, but I wanted us because we only have a couple of weeks from this time till then. Actually, a week is the 18th, and for those of you that may or may not know, and of course it is kind of late, I guess I should have been doing some of this stuff and sharing earlier, but I'm here. So, but what I'm saying is I'm asking you, have you been living authentically? Have you been living authentically? Or are you still living under the ego of what you are? And if you are, then there's maybe some things that are coming that are going to be a little difficult, and I will refuse to say exactly what those things may or may not be, because I don't know that anybody knows fully what they may or may not be, because everything is potential. But the potential for you to negatively harm yourself in this time, okay, the for those people who have been blessed to hear the truth, the blessing of the truth can end up as a curse if you choose to walk away from it or walk contrary to it. If you're still heard it, yada, 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 but you're still continuing on in the way you've always been, then you're probably one of the people that this setup that's coming in our society as these planets move around. And there's a major shift this month. There's a major shift. We have I believe it's a lunar eclipse somewhere around the 20th or so a week and a half away. And my understanding is that there's going to, at some levels, is going to be a fixation. Now, I would like to say, I'm not telling anybody that they're going to be eternally locked out or any of that stuff, because to be quite honest with you, I don't know. And if I knew that answer, I would probably be less prone to say it anyways. But the reality of it is at whatever level that it functions or exists, there is an opportunity for us to pass, if you would, the test up into this point from wherever you started this spirit journey this month. And those that do, and there again, the prophets talked about these things, about the separating of timelines. You are going to watch, if you continue to walk to the light, you're gonna become more and more sensitive to the people that aren't walking according to the light. Now, they can tell you that they're walking according to the light, and you're going to have a knowing inside of you that that person's mad at me, and I can see it on their behavior, and the only reason they have to be mad at me is that I'm light and they're not. I mean, be sure that that's true, but if in fact that is true, I can't urge people enough. This isn't against anybody. It's actually a blessing for everyone who hears and listens. As Yeshua said, those who hear are the ones who will hear, and the others won't anyway. So if you hear in your heart what I'm trying to say to you, the universe is bringing humanity to a place of evolution. We are evolving spiritually. We are returning to the essence of that which we were. And there are regimens and pieces that are tied to that. There are places for us along the road where we are going to be tested to find out, are we real? Are we authentic? And so when I use the term authentic, it really is the exact proper word for you to ask yourself, am I living the authentic me, which means your spirit self? Have you begun the remembering and the morphing from the flesh into the spirit? And if you're not, then you haven't heard the truth yet anyways. And when you do hear it, the light will come on, and then you will be bound to the same as everybody else before you was. That now what are you going to do with it? And so if you have been hearing that inside of you, then just be aware that you have to continue. You can't let the archons right now, the activity in the spirit realm against light workers is absolutely phenomenal. I have things that go on some days, and I have to promise you, I don't know how I can even walk sometimes. And yet many times I recognize it. Sometimes I don't, and I have to suffer longer. So that comes with immaturity, which I'm very immature in the spirit realm for where I want to be. But I won't be forever, and that's what keeps me going forward. If I keep walking, there's no way for anyone to ever defeat me, because I am already the head and not the tail. I am above and not beneath, but I haven't manifested that because it hasn't become my fixed belief system. And that's how we bring those things into our life, is by what we believe truly in our hearts. If we believe that we are rich, then we are rich, and that has nothing to do with money. So some of the richest people on the earth have been the people in dirt and poverty. And so I don't deny that money makes your life easier and you get to enjoy more things. And that's wonderful. I'm all for that. I'm all in. I say, do whatever it is that you feel like that you're supposed to be doing in life. But sometimes the things that you're right in the will of the monad, and at whatever reason that doesn't work like everybody else's seems to. And so I don't want you to condemn yourself if you're somehow doing wrong if things aren't always going perfectly. We go through tests, and we go through times, and we go through seasons. And so I would encourage you to really kind of take stock in yourself introspectively. If you're not meditating, take 5 minutes and just sit and invite. Wake up in the morning, while you're sitting having a cup of coffee or smoking a cigarette or whatever it is that you do, be thankful and invite the monad to share the day with you. You'll be amazed when you begin to live in the reality that world really does exist. Even if I can't see it, you'll be amazed at how it manifests. Doesn't mean you're not going to have struggles. Doesn't mean you're not going to question things. I question them, and usually before the day is over with, Source has given me answer, and I find peace, and I let go of it. And I'm going to learn to do that faster, so that things that used to take days take hours, and things that used to take hours takes minutes, and things that used to take minutes I don't even struggle with them. They're just I recognize it and let it go. And so that's kind of, if some of you have been encountering stuff like that, then you're just encountering what everybody else who's walking this journey may be encountering. If you're going through intense physical stuff, it's not surprising. This is a very intense. I don't know if you people understand this or not, whoever comes and whoever Source brings to listen, that America was put here for a reason, and I said that. But we really are standing, and I wish there were more spirit people that were enlightened with the truth that has been given to us, that would tell people that the United States as a country is standing on a precipice, and the balance has not struck yet. The balance has not struck. There are many, many spirit forces around this earth that are waiting to find out what humanity is going to do. So we're beginning to enlighten. Are the humans going to be able to actually complete it? That's what the spirit forces, the spirits from outer places, that seems constantly to be the thing. They're watching humanity's, what decision are you going to make? So if we can believe that what's above is what is below, if they are watching in the heavenlies to see what decision humanity as a whole is going to make, then down here we are the ones that are making that decision. As above, so below. And so it's quite strange to me how we've moved so quickly and how it's moved so fast. And if you lose your breath from time to time, I get it. I often have those times and spells, and I simply have to go back to my higher self and trust my intuition and trust that the Spirit hasn't ever told me anything different than I will complete my task, and I am to keep going forward. I haven't one time ever had a promise that everything was going to be the way I wanted it. Never. And I've been walking this journey a lot longer than I have any knowledge of, but most of my life in reality has been on this journey without my knowledge. And so now I see that it's easy to turn and look backwards, but it's not so easy to always remember that in the heat of the moment. So if you're struggling, if you're uncomfortable, you almost don't even recognize yourself. I guess depending on your perspective would determine whether you see that as being a positive thing or whether you see that. But I will tell you from my perspective, that's good, because that means you're not the person you used to be, and that is movement. And I know when the Ruach, when the spirit of the monad begins to move, it's powerful stuff. So, but about this month, just for the next couple of weeks, if I could encourage whoever will, if you would just maybe be a little bit more mindful maybe be a little bit more present in the now. You know, we've been taught, and I see it, but we've been so taught and programmed, depending on what the bent of our parents were. We might be a person that was programmed to live in the past. Maybe some of you have parents that could recant every wrong deed that was ever done to them at the end of their life. Those people's programming is just simply a rewinding of the same tape and playing the same tape over and over again. They just go over and over and over and over, and 50 years from now they're going to have the same thoughts over and over and over. And some of you are that person. And then there's other people who live on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. And you know, that cycle goes over and over and over and over again. And so we have to learn to recognize that. And then when we learn to recognize that, how about if we learn to just walk in the present? You know, we know there's many people that have made kind statements like, you know, you only have now. You don't have what's past. It's gone. You don't have what's in the future because it's not here yet. The only minute in your life every day is the 1 minute that you're living in. And so I know it's helped me. I don't always remember that, but when I do remember it, it has always been a help to me. That nothing else is important. Sometimes it's the way that you find peace, maybe in an unpeaceful situation, is by saying, I'm here in this moment now. What do I need to learn? And so I hope that I can encourage you. I do, with all of my heart, I hope that I can encourage you. But it doesn't change the things that the universe intends. That is to say, you can have all the right intentions in your heart, and if it is intended that this earth is going to have a pole shift very soon, then there's nothing that your intentions are going to do to change that pole shift, unless maybe everybody in the world, or maybe there's a fixed number of billions of people that if they shift, we may be able to reverse the earth. And I don't think that is woo-woo. I see that as, I think we're a lot more powerful than we have any clue of. And the more that I learn, the more that I come to that belief system being cemented in me. Friend, I'm sorrowful for those of you that knew me. I'm not the same person I used to be. And I've had many people that know me tell me that massively. But that ain't the deal. I ain't trying to get people to recognize. I'm trying to get people to recognize in themselves that they also are great, and that we are not defeated. We don't have to lose. We may have to go through some things to get to the victory, but we will get to the victory if we will simply trust the truth that has been given to us, that we are divine. And, you know, there are other people out there that are teaching different aspects of what I'm teaching. Mine is I believe, geared towards, if you would, people who have just relatively recently are fixing to come out of Christianity, that decision, and to expose that deception. I think that's why I had to spend 20 years as a pastor, was so that I could learn what those people believed, so I could help people when they come out of it. Because it's really difficult to go from Jesus, the one in the Bible, to Yeshua, this itinerant Gnostic mystic preacher who told us that we were God. And yet you find all of that in the Bible, but there's so much corruption around it that you can't see it if you don't know what the truth is. I mean, it's easy for me to see Yeshua now. I don't worry about all the other words Matthew wrote. What did Yeshua say? And that's really, for the most part, that's what's important, is what did Yeshua say? And Yeshua told us that we were gods. He told us that we were light. He told us that the kingdom is within inside of us. And my friend, if you never heard anything but those three statements, that's enough to set you on the course to correct your life. And so, but for the next couple of weeks, if you would, I hope that you will hold an intention in a way, maybe if you don't quite know what that means, because I'm not perfected at everything, but I do see many pieces, and that maybe we need to set an intention for the next 2 weeks to walk contrary to our flesh, but in alignment with our inner self, our intuition, our higher self, our God-like. And you must tie to that. If it's correct, and I don't know that it's not, but my understanding is that inside of each human, only about 5% of our divine spark actually exists inside of us. The other 95% is in the cosmic realm, the spirit realm, and that's been quite an undertaking, because that gives us. It's not like I'm all of a sudden just supernaturally the fullness of all that it is. Although I wish that's the way it worked, honestly. I love what's happening. We watched a show called Child Psychics, and we had watched the first one, and the one that we just watched, I guess that's the most recent. It's really been crazy in about 10 years' time how much of a shift there is in early teenage children. And when they first started that show, it was more about trying to save the life of the child, only to find out that this child has a massively unique gift inside of them. And so watching it, now that they've been doing that, whatever, 10 years or something between the two that we saw, it's really crazy, because now children are coming in, and I would love to say to this, and may these words, monad, go out, and may they reverberate through the cosmos and touch every molecule that exists. But it's quite amazing to me that the children are coming in today with a desire to heal. That is, man, I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here, my hair is standing up on its end in the realm. I know maybe you don't have that, but I've had that desire since I began to get called to come back to truth. And it's so wonderful to think about the reality, instead of us having to have people around us that are hurting, that we may potentially be able to simply, whether it be through words or be through hands, and all, there'll be many manifestations of healing in different forms. And so heart healing, the words that you say that are from the collective consciousness that are perfect, that you said them and said them in a way to where they reached inside of somebody and comforted their broken heart. Or, I'm sorrowful. I'm a softie lately, I guess. I watch these things and they make me cry because of how much humanity is pained. We're pained with the most simple things in life. And it destroys and affects our lives, and people don't know how to get out of it. Maybe some of you feel that way. If you do, please understand that the cure is already in you, and it is difficult maybe sometimes to get there. I felt like that it was important that I say to people some of the pieces that I shared, and we will probably look at that. I'm hoping that we can this weekend in the second session, and because I think it's very valid that you know what you're going to encounter in the monad, for trying to get to the monad, if you understand that. And it wouldn't be right for many reasons, mostly because of Christianity, to use the term of monad as heaven, because it's really not the heavens. It's before heavens were, it was. And so, but the place of return, let me say it like that, where we, once again, complete the process of unity. We're not separated, but we are fractals of the whole. And there will be a point when the whole will come back completely to one. All the fractals will be drawn in. And that's part of this spiritual alignment. The fractals are being enlightened. We're becoming powerful again. We're having desires to go places and do things. And I've already lost several desires that I used to have. And it's just like, man, I don't even I don't even care about that anymore. And that's a sure giveaway sign if you've experienced some of those. If there's a hobby you have that you used to value a lot and it doesn't resonate with you now, don't be surprised. There's lots of things that are changing, brothers and sisters. So maybe if you could take 5 minutes, sit on your bed at night, lay in your bed, sit in a chair by yourself in the quiet, and maybe you could set your intention to find maybe a little more of your authentic self, the higher self, not the one. I did something today walking down an aisle in Walmart. I had a thought and I said, that wasn't my highest self. That thought wasn't mine. And I recognized it and I let it go. Many times we have those things that come and we don't recognize them and we reach out and we grab it. And of course, then it usually is a negative effect. So I hope that you understand this is a very potent time. You're going to sense right now there's been kind of a heaviness. No question that we're in a really spiritual, planets are changing positions and they're moving into positions that are going to set up what happens for the next stage. And so you have the normal shifts that happen month by month, but this is a little bit different deal and it's more intense. But the lunar eclipse, I believe it is, that happens somewhere around the 20th or so of February, Finn, is a ending of, it's a changing of timelines. And so I understand it is a permanent changing of timelines. Now, I don't even like to say those words, but I have to try to share what I see as being truth with people that might want to hear it and look at it for themselves. But if we really are in a time, and the end of things as they have been is coming to an end, and it certainly appears like that. Okay? It's quite funny. I heard a Catholic prophecy, actually, or someone who was killed by Catholicism, and the prophet said that there would be a time when basically the concept was the thing that sits on 7 hills, that the hills would be destroyed and the thing would go into. Well, I think that it's a literal that there's 7 hills. That's how we know what they're talking about. But I actually think those pedestals that Christianity are held up, which are the hills, are the things right now that are being destroyed. It's crumbling. I mean, the minute that you tell someone and they listen with their heart that they're not sinners and they're not going to hell, the minute that you tell them that, I've watched instantly people's thoughts change. So if you're doing the same and experiencing, then I want you to know that you suffer a little bit for telling truth. Don't quit telling truth. People might not like you. Let them not like you, but know that you're in the place that you are because that's where you needed to be. And so I encourage you to do this exercise of setting intention that I'm going to be authentic for the rest of the month of February. And that's not to say that you shouldn't continue that, but what I'm talking about is a concerted focus. What you focus on is what you are. And that concerted focus may wane after we get through this phase, and you'll have a different phase that comes along, and you have to focus your intention on something else. But it really will be to your benefit if you heed and hear my words, and you take. They're not condemnation for anyone. If Source says this is a timeline shift, and if you're over here, you're going to stay over there. And if you're over here in higher frequency, you're going to stay over there. I want to listen to that. If you choose not to, that's your business. But I want to hear that. And I want to tell everybody that I get the opportunity to, please, please, please don't take these words for granted. They are very potent. They are very real. They may not be what you think, and that's okay. The question you have to find inside of yourself, is there something that's resonating with what's being said? And if there is, then you need to learn to pay attention to that. So peace to each and every one of you guys. I hope you'll be blessed. I hope I've helped you some. Maybe I've helped somebody who has some questions. And I certainly am always open and available to do that. It is always a part of the journey. And so peace to each and every one of you. And shalom. May you have completeness, total completeness, and namaste.